Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the CSC Sports Preview. I'm Ethan Stray, the student broadcaster for CSC Live. The CSC women's basketball team is continuing to work through some challenging times as they are on a bit of a losing streak. Now, for the men's program, they're trying to hang on to the 7th or 8th seed as we approach tournament time. We'll check in on their progress in this episode. Men's wrestling team as well continues to be very impressive with their undefeated streak in conference duels. Then we'll check in on the women's wrestling program as they near the inaugural RMAC Women's Championships. This and much more coming up on the CSC Sports Preview. The Eagle women's basketball team fought a hard battle against Colorado Springs Mountain Lions back on the 26th of January. The Eagles were consistent in their offensive efforts, but the Eagles' defense struggled a bit on limiting the baskets made by the Mountain Lions. 27 points is all the CSC could come up with in the first half and would find themselves down 39 to 27 at the half. After the half, it was more of a defensive game as the second half the Eagles would outscore the opposition 31 to 27 but still wouldn't be able to overcome the power of Colorado Springs. The loss would drop the Eagles record to 5-11 overall and 3-9 in conference play. But the win improves UCCS's record to 12-7 overall and 9-4 in the RMAC. Chadron State out-rebounded the Mountain Lions in this one, 34 to 28. The Eagles had a consistent offensive attack, brought out a 450 field goal shooting percentage and 25% accuracy from three-point range. Making counts would be the game leader in this one, 18 points off of 6 field goals and 6 free throw makes. Behind her sat Allison Olsen, who gathered in 15 points. Over half of those came from the charity stripe, 8 of those to be exact for Olsen for her total 15 points on her stat line. This made Olsen 8 for 11 in the free throw department on the game. After the tough 66 to 58 loss to the Mountain Lions of Colorado Springs, the Eagles would take on the challenging Regis Rangers on the road, who entered with a strong record of 15-3, 11-2 in conference action. Regis was a strong challenge that the Eagles really embraced in the opening quarter of play, and Chadron would find themselves with a small lead, 20-18, in that first quarter of play. Then it kind of spiraled out of control for the Chadron defense, and frustration started to spark as Regis would score 30 points. Some points coming off of the Eagle miscues on either defense or the offensive side of the ball. 48-32 was the halftime lead for Regis. And then the defense shined for Regis in the closing, limiting CSC to 10 points in the third and 14 points in the closing quarter of play. Final score ended up being 91-56 in that one, with Regis on top of the Eagles. Regis put up some solid numbers in the ball game, 54.5% from the field, 40% from three-point range. I think one of those key successes that attributed those offensive numbers for the Rangers was really honestly their ability to rebound the basketball on both sides, both offensive and defensive. They totaled 44 total rebounds, nearly 20 more than what Chadron State ended up having in the ball game. The lone leader for Chadron State in this one was Megan Counts, who led the offense with 17 total points, 7 from the field, and 3 beyond the arc. Moving forward, CSC would face off against the Hard Rockers when they returned back home. This was a great rivalry matchup for a Sunday, or rather a Saturday afternoon matchup between the Hard Rockers and the Eagles. This one was a good back and forth ball game between these two teams. It was such a great battle that neither team really led by more than 7 points in the entirety of the contest. The Eagle lead came about in the closing quarter of play, which was courtesy of a 3-point make by Allison Olsen. And by a minute and 20 seconds remaining in the ball game, Lyon and Olsen's shooting got Chadron State to a 64-57 lead, the biggest lead for Chadron State of the ball game. The game would end up with it being only a one-possession ball game, with Chadron State on top 70-67 over the Hard Rockers. Scoring duo was Megan Counts and Liberty Line in this one, tallying 15 total points for each player. Counts was nearly perfect with her shooting as she was 5 for 7 from the field and 3 for 3 from 3-point range and 2 for 2 on her 2 trips to the charity stripe. Shadron, as a team, would have a 46% field goal shooting percentage, and they got 50% from sharpshooting distance beyond the 3-point arc. So, really good shooting percentages for the Eagle offense as a whole in this one. Team also only had 2 free throw misses in total in the ball game. After the game at home, the Eagles would take to the road once again and take on some more RMAC teams. This time it was Colorado Christian that was up next on the schedule. Each team made 28 field goals, but the Cougars ended up downing 9 3-pointers in the ball game. Quick lead started the offensive attack of the Cougars from Colorado Christian with a 28-13 lead in the first quarter. Second quarter presented a season-high 33 points that would put CSC up 46-44 at the half. Shadron State would ultimately fall in this one 82-76 to lose to the Cougars on the road to start the road trip. Again, Megan Counts the leader for the Eagle offense. She's been pretty consistent over the last couple of games with that leadership position. 15 total points. Megan fell just 3 rebounds shy of a double-double as well. So a great performance there by the Eagles' Megan Counts. Shadron State would then run into challenges against Western Colorado. First quarter, and that one presented a 22-10 lead over Shadron for the Mountaineers. Shadron State would continue to struggle offensively, but would reach 20-plus points scored in the fourth quarter of play, for the final score being 81-63, a double-digit win for the Mountaineers over the Eagles. Allison Olsen was the scoring leader in this one with 17 total points in the ball game. We'll recap the final 6 games of the season in the next episode. Welcome back to the CSC Sports Preview Show with your host Ethan Stray, the student commentator for CSC Live. We just recapped the women's basketball progress. We now move ahead to the men's basketball program as they look to stay in a place of possible contention in postseason play. For the CSC men's basketball program, they took on Colorado Springs on the road back on the 26th of January. Shadron's offensive efforts in this one would give them a season-high shooting percentage as a team of 60% from the field. CSC would end up winning 93-86 in this one on the road trip to start off their great road trip efforts. Josh Robinson was the scoring leader with 22 total points in this ball game. This amounted to a 71.4% field goal shooting percentage for Robinson. The Eagles faced off against Regis after the battle against UCCS, and Regis was a bit too strong for the mighty Eagles to handle after a strong night on Friday night. Before we recap, we'll take a look back at the last time these two teams met. It was a rather close battle here in Shadron and ended up with a CSC victory of 77-73 over the Rangers. For this go around, the score would remain rather close and even tied at 2 different stages in the ball game, both halftime and about 3 minutes into the second half of play. The halftime score was tied at 33, and this one improved the record of the Rangers to 10-9 overall and 7-6 in conference play. Shadron State shot 42.3% from the field in the opening half, but dropped to about 29% in the later stages of the contest. The big downer of CSC was the 70% from the field shooting percentage that the Rangers ended up having in the opening half of play, and they only dropped their shooting percentage in the second half to just 48%, so relatively high and consistent throughout the ball game for Regis. 3-pointers were not necessarily a friend of Regis in the first half. They shot 0 for 15 from beyond the arc and only made 3 for 9 in the second half of play, so 3-pointers not going their way in this one, but they still found a way over top of the Eagle offense and defense. CSC's game leaders were Bryce Latimer and Dalton Pearson, both finishing with 13 and 12 points on their stat lines. 2 other notables in this one for the Eagles is Josh Robinson finished 2 points shy of having a double-double. He had 10 rebounds and 8 total points in the ballgame. And John Jenkins, who would finish with a total of 10 points in the contest. Again, CSC would fall in this one 55-86 against the Regis Rangers on the road. The next weekend presented Shadron with just a one-game matchup, which is kind of rare in the RMAC to see a one-game matchup on the weekend, but nevertheless, it was a matchup against the rivals from up north. South Dakota Mines Hard Rockers came to town. It was a good Saturday afternoon matchup, Saturday evening between these two teams, with the final score being separated by just 6 total points. Let's dive right into the recap of the action. Consistency was really the name of the game for the Shadron offense in this one. The Eagles put up 38 points in each half of play. At halftime, score was separated by just 8 points, so really a back and forth game, really tight the entire way through. 38-30 lead for the Eagles at the half. After the half, the Eagle offense continued their work and built a lead all the way out to 16 points, almost halfway through the closing half of play. 57-41 at the 11 minutes and 50-second mark to be exact. So pretty evenly matched up between both teams, and offensively they were matched up quite well. 40% from the field with 8 3-point makes for Shadron State, and the shooting percentage for the Hard Rockers settled right about the same from the field, just a little less. The two leaders in this one was Latimer and Robinson, 17 and 16 points each for those two CSC players. Both of them ended up getting double doubles on their stat lines for the ball game. Their rebounding efforts both securing exactly 10 rebounds on the evening. After the one game set at home, it was a midweek trip to take on the Colorado Christian Cougars, and this was really a tough battle for CSC. The offense for Shadron came out really solid in the first half, but began to fall out of that consistency track towards the end of the contest. Eagles scored a total of 60 points in the ballgame, 38 of those coming in the first half, 22 in the second. Shadron led at halftime, 38-28 in Lakewood, but 35-point effort in the second half was what was needed to secure the victory for Colorado Christian. An important note in this tough 63-60 loss for Shadron was that Bryce Latimer was one of those key players that was out for this ball game due to some illness that was going around at that time. A lot of players on the women's side as well dealing with some of those battles off and on throughout the season. So that offensive approach for the Eagles kind of changed a little bit, as you know, the fast pace of Bryce Latimer driving in there, drawing the contact. So maybe drawing up a little bit of different things in the approach against Colorado Christian on the Wednesday evening game in Lakewood. With the loss, the Eagles would fall to 11-10 after their play against the Cougars, and 8-7 in RMAC action. Jenkins was the leader in this one, marked him down for 16 points on his stat line, topping the other Eagle offensive players. With the final basketball recap in this episode, it is the Eagles taking on Western Colorado. CSC trailed by 10 at the half, 39-29 on the road. The second half showed a rally in the cards for CSC as they were able to tie the score at 61. Under 3 minutes left to go was when that tie occurred, but even with the momentum the Eagles had at that moment, they just fell just shy of that mark that was set by Western, which made the final score 68-61 in favor of the Mountaineers on the night. Both teams shot 40% from the field in the ball game, making it really a fun one to watch. Latimer had an absence again from the court in this one, so John Jenkins takes the player of the game accolade for the Eagles with an 18-point and 7-rebound performance. So John Jenkins with another good performance in the absence of his teammate Bryce Latimer. We take a quick break, but when we come back, we got the men's wrestling recaps coming your way right here on the CSC Sports Preview. This is Ethan Stray with you, and you're listening to the CSC Sports Preview. Now we venture into the world of success with the men's wrestling program, and then after an update on the women's wrestling program and their ventures at the first annual RMAC Women's Wrestling Championships, which was hosted in the Mile High City. So we start off with the Eagle men's wrestling duels. Let's take a look at the duel against Western Colorado back on the 27th of January. It was a great slate of matches for the duel and was a good one in Gunnison, Colorado. It was a 22-15 decision for the Eagles, with the Eagles being on the winning side of the duel. Let's take a look at the important matches in this one. At the 125-pound weight class, it was Quade Smith that put CSC up 6-0 early with a pin in 2 minutes and 20 seconds. After a forfeit at the 133 pounds by the Mountaineers, it was an Ethan Leak 13-4 major decision at the 141-pound class, giving CSC a 16-0 lead. Finishing out the duel was Mason Watt, who had a 4-0 decision in the 285-pound weight class. The following night, it was another fantastic duel, this time against the Colorado Mesa Mavericks. This one again on the road in Colorado. CSC secured a 25-15 win for the duel. Eagles' first 5 contestants, Quade Smith at 125 pounds, Quinn Campbell 133, Ethan Leak 141, Tori Early 149, and Clayton Robinson at 157, all earned 3 points by decisions. Good for 15 total points for CSC. That's 15 of the 25 that the Eagles were able to collect against the Mavericks. With the win, CSC holds a 7-1 dual record and 5-0 against their RMAC opponents. The Eagles, with that record, are really honestly a dangerous team that could win that RMAC title outright if they can hold strong on the ground and momentum that they have. Now, folks, you might want to be sitting for these next 2 recaps because they are absolutely mind-blowing and thrillers of matches. So Adams State came to town on February 2nd and pushed the Eagles to the limit and challenged them to hold their perfect conference record. One of the key challenges on the night were illnesses to 2 key wrestlers for the Eagles, both Campbell and Early listed as unavailable for the duel. Grizzlies won their first of 5 matches with a 9-0 major decision in the 197-pound class. And then number 17, nationally ranked Isaiah Games scored 7 of the final 8 points of his match to defeat number 8 ranked Quade Smith of CSC, 10-3 the score in that match. Then the Grizzlies regained the lead 12-10 with an 18-2 tech fall at the 133-pound class. And in only his 5th start of the season, or 5th match of the season, Hunter Gilmore, redshirt sophomore from Arlington, Nebraska, came up big for the Eagles. And Gilmore had 2 early takedowns in his match and scored 1 more on the way to an 11-3 major decision for the Eagles. It gave CSC a 16-12 lead. Then Adams State responded by winning the following 2 matches and scoring 8 team points. They were victorious 5-2 in the sudden victory at 157 pounds and won with a 17-2 tech fall in the 165-pound weight class to gain a 20-16 lead on the night. Next up was the final match of the evening, and this is where the fireworks happened. In front of an electric crowd, Logan Berger earned a 13-5 major decision to tie the match at 20. Both teams were victorious in 5 of the 10 matches, so the match ended up falling to criteria, and the number of pins was what decided the factor of who won this one, and the Eagles went home happy due to Watt recording the pin at the 285-pound weight class, so that gave the Eagles 1 additional team point, and they would win 21-20 with a criteria point to remain undefeated in RMAC duels. I will say, folks, I have not been to many wrestling matches or even commentated very many, and this one kind of hooked me on the sport, and with a historic and memorable night, it really won't be forgotten anytime soon. It'll be one of those that I cherish that I had the opportunity to be present at. Again, really that crowd on hand just kind of built on to the night at the Chicoine Center and was absolutely remarkable, electric, as I said, and I think it was that extra push that the Eagles really needed to get that criteria win in the end and really power Mason Watt to get that pin in that 285-pound weight class. Following weekend presented another great duel, the final RMAC duel at home for Chadron State. So it was senior night here at the Chicoine Center, and what better way to celebrate it but with a win and the outright title for the men's RMAC wrestling. The Eagles were 7-3 in the duels on the night, had bonus points in 5 of their 7 wins for the Eagles. The 4 veterans who fill the lighter weights got the Eagles off to a great start in the duel. Each of them earned bonus points as Chadron State jumped out to a quick 21-0 lead for their team's score. Then junior Quade Smith pinned his 125-pound weight class opponent in a minute and 44 seconds, and senior Quinn Campbell scored a 21-4 tech fall in the 133-pound match. Then senior Ethan Leake pinned his 141-pound rival in 4 minutes and 33 seconds. Then graduate student Tori Early dominated his 149-pound weight class matchup with a 14-1 margin for a major decision to round out the wrestling matches for the duel. All of this led to the first conference title by Chadron State since 1995, so a huge accomplishment for the Eagles. It was a night full of hugs, tears, pictures, and lots of celebrating for the Saturday night in Chadron. I would again like to extend a huge congratulations to the team and head coach Brett Hunter on their hard work and dedication this season, bringing that conference title to Chadron. Wrapping up the women's wrestling season in this episode of the CSC Sports Preview. First up was the first annual RMAC Women's Wrestling Championships. Chadron would have 6 wrestlers with top 3 finishes at the championships. The second place finishers were Mana Chanthazone at the 101-pound weight class, and then Ana Rojas Zamora at the 123-pound weight class, and then Camila Montenegro at the 191-pound weight class. So a great effort by the team and a rather successful trip to the first conference championships. Then dual season wrapped up afterwards with CSC taking on the University of Sioux Falls Cougars. Chadron State would secure a 30-15 victory. Chanthazone, a freshman from Liberal, Kansas, was the key wrestler in this one for the Eagles. She bumped the weight class up to 109 pounds in this duel, where she earned a 10-0 tech fall in 2 minutes and 40 seconds to extend the Eagles' lead at the time 9-0 in the duel. Then finally, a brief recap on the NCWWC Region 5 Wrestling Tournament. Eagles had 4 qualifiers in this one, and those are as follows. Camila Montenegro, senior from Las Vegas, Nevada, became the 2nd regional champion in school history by going 3-0 at the 191-pound weight class. Then Ana Rojas Zamora was the runner-up at the 123-pound weight class to qualify, while Hevane Robles Wright and Mana Chanthazone placed 4th in their respective weight classes to punch a ticket as well. As we draw to a close on this episode of the CSC Sports Preview, again, you can watch all home athletic events on CSC Live, found at the web address of chadronstate.tv. For more news, stats, schedules, and more, be sure to visit the athletics page. That's at chadroneagles.com. This has been another edition of the CSC Sports Preview. Take care, everyone.